finished wheat. Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm at the Whatcom SkillShare Faire near Bellingham, Washington, where all kinds of people are doing exciting things, and I'm here with people that are working with the fiber arts, including Donna.
Hi, I'm Donna Chipio, and I'm from Bellingham, and I just learned to spin this year.
Yes.
And so I've had an exponential growth, and so the first thing to do in preparing to spin yarn is to card it, and so I'm going to demonstrate how to do some carding today.
Great, thank you.
And so we have a bag of raw fleece here.
What kind of animal fleece?
It's a sheep, a wool
okay.
sheep, wool from a sheep, and it's been washed, and so I'm just breaking apart the fibers a little, making sure there's no pieces of hay or grass left in. And so then I'm going to place it on the carder here. And
so okay, so there's a tray area, and then there's a couple of, it's a wheel with little spikes, is that?
Right, and so what it does is it rolls the wool on, and it takes the fibers and makes them so they're all going in the same direction.
Oh.
And then that way you get fiber that is easier to spin. And so what I'll do is I'll put enough wool onto the carder so that the drum is full. And then I'll break it apart right here, and then the wool just lifts right off, and it turns into a piece like this.
I see.
And so
that's the result that comes out of that, is they're all sort of aligned roughly.
Right, and then you roll it up, and it's called a rollag, and then from that you break it apart and you use it to spin like they're doing over there.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll go over and we'll see what it takes to spin. I'm with Tina Swanson, who is showing us how to, what, spin?
Teach the student to spin.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Now, right, okay. You're going to pedal the wheel, and I am going to demonstrate my hands. See? Draft. Oops.
Keep pedaling.
Keep pedaling.
Let's go back the other way.
Okay, right.
So you're
Pinch,
pedaling to keep the keep it
draft,
turning.
Let the twist in, pinch. Let the draft in, pinch. Okay. Each time. Both hands working. Do it myself. See? Right hand coming back. See? Yeah, that's fine. Now don't worry about the thickness of it. We're just maintaining a thread. That's all we're after.
This is definitely a lot harder than it looks.
It's very few people can make a consistent thread in under 3 months. And a lot of people give up because they think they have no forte for it. But the truth of the matter is they just didn't give it enough time. It's easy when you've been doing it for 20 years.
You make it look easy.
There
you
we
do.
are. Easy,
And a consistent
there
thickness to
is.
your thread.
Now this is called long draw.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you. It's lovely to see someone who's really expert at a craft, who makes it look so easy and yet willing to teach beginners how to do it. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. I'm with Carol Boswell, who's with the Camelot Ranch Alpacas, right? So you race?
raise alpacas right here in Ferndale.
And so you know, go through all the steps of all of this, and then we come to using the one way to use the yarn. I'm going to show
weaving, and this is a very simple loom. It's actually an old play school loom that I got on eBay a couple of years ago, but it's all solid wood, and it works really well and demonstrates just some simple weaving. So there's a couple of pieces that I always like to tell people about, and that is, this is the shuttle, and this is what's going to pass along and weave for you. It's your tool, and we've got some brown alpaca yarn on there. The threads on the loom going across the loom are called the warp, and so this on the shuttle is called the weft. This piece right here is the heddle, and the heddle controls where your threads are going, either up or down. In this case, it's alternating every other up or down, just by movement. Okay, so
that way the weft threads alternate, and then they back up and down, up and down.
So what happens, it's a little difficult to see maybe from that side, but I'm going to take this shuttle and pass it through this space, and that space is called the shed, and you can see that I'm just going to pass it through. There's enough space up close to that heddle that I pass it through, and there's that thread. Okay, and you don't go too tight, but there's our color. And then you take your heddle and you kind of squeeze it down here, and you can see that this is now creating your fabric right here. We started with a green color, we've now moved on to this brown color, and that heddle just keeps it compacted down tight. So last time we had the heddles down. This time I'm going to put the heddle in the up position. I'm coming from the opposite side with my shuttle. I take it, I pass it through the shed again, coming from the other side, and I'm just getting that every other pattern that is being created on our warp. Here comes the heddle again, move it down, just like this, move it up. You can always do a little bit of an adjustment. You don't want to go too tight on your ends, otherwise you get a wonky piece of loom, or a woven piece that gets really tight in the middle. I always have a little comb handy to help, called beat it down is what I'm doing.
Beating, okay.
Just like that. And you simply move back up and, up and down with the heddle and through the shed, back and forth from side to side until your piece is done.
So what you've got here is the basic principles for all the complex weaving that's done by hand or machines.
Exactly.
Right.
Some of your big expensive looms might have, 10, 12, 15 heddles, which would create something like a checkerboard piece. It's moving certain threads, groups of threads up or down. This is just a very simplified kind of children's loom, but it demonstrates so well just the basics of weaving. So I always like to have it out at fairs. Adults, kids, everybody seems to kind of get into it.
Yeah.
They can give it a try. It's kind of non-intimidating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. You made it non-intimidating.
Good. I hope so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. What we're looking at are rocket stoves. I'm with Travis Lind, who's the owner of Green Conversions. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
What is a rocket stove? Let's start there.
Well, a rocket stove is basically an economical way to basically heat water in this case. These are mainly used for canning and cooking, but rocket stoves can be used to heat houses. Greenhouses are used quite a bit, and generally reusing materials that are thrown away. In these cases we have 35 and 25 gallon barrels, which are generally available for free.
Oh, you can just salvage these from
salvage
somewhere?
Them, yeah. Generally they're available free if you find someone for a source. You can also buy some of the bigger ones on like Craigslist or something. Generally try to find them free. And a lot of it's definitely, you're able to use waste materials for fuel in most cases. And a lot of people use prunings from their fruit trees and everything to basically heat the water. And like say this right now, we're heating water for the felting project next door.
Okay.
But I've used them before for canning. I think that's definitely one of the best uses for a rocket stove is canning for this style. For brewing beer, if you need to boil large quantities of hot water, it's definitely very efficient.
Sure.
And I guess the concept with the rocket stove is to have a most efficient combustion. You want to have a high heat fire with lots of oxygen and lots of fire to burn efficiently. Traditionally, if you have a stove and you damper down, you're not getting very efficient combustion. So, you know, you use very little fuel to basically, in this case, heat the water. And it's basically the heat's channeled up, and it goes basically the flue goes right in the bottom of the pot, so you get the majority of the heat that comes up and onto the bottom of the pot.
Let me step back a step. What I'm seeing is you've got a big container, and then you've got a smaller, like a tin can is what it looks like, sort of in concrete. Is that concrete or something?
Yeah, well, this is actually a T. So what it is, it's a T at an angle. So basically, the ashes go through the bottom, and then it's the stovepipe comes right up. It's basically
up here.
Up there, yeah. So this is stovepipe material, basically. So it's like you have a little firebox down in there, and it's encapsulated with this concrete perlite mixture. And perlite, you can get it at all sorts of farm supply stores. It's basically very lightweight. People add a lot of it to like soil for amendments. But it's lightweight and insulating, and you mix it at a 10-to-1 ratio with the concrete. And that sort of sets it in there, it insulates it, and basically just provides a base for the stove. I can go ahead and pull the pot off here. So this water is boiling.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so we go in, and then the fire is coming up that chimney.
Right up on the bottom of the pot, and then it's channeled around the pot to provide heat it.
I see.
Grab something, grab them. So, like I say, it does a really good job at heating the water.
How long does it take to make such a thing?
Not very long. Like Peter and I did this one at a workshop, and for about 2 hours, basically, we were putting them together, and you mix up the concrete, and if you do it together, you just basically set it in there, and it takes about a day for the concrete to cure. But then you just have the rebar handy, you drill the holes.
Drill some holes.
And you want to minimize the gap between the edge and the pot. Like this is a little bit more efficient because it forces the heat up around the water. So you utilize as much of that energy as possible into heating the water rather than traditionally on a stove, most of it would go up the chimney.
For sure.
So this is the chimney basically surrounded around the pot.
So people are also using these to heat their homes, right? A version of this idea.
Yeah. I've talked to another couple people here today where they're using a rocket stove combined with a mass heater. And the thing about the mass heater is what you want to do is you want to use that heat and put it into a big, large thermal mass. Like one guy had a cob cabin, and he's actually building a rocket stove, and then he's channeling the exhaust through the benches, the cob benches in his structure, and then up through the wall, basically. So that by the time the smoke goes out the chimney, it's cold, so all the heat is into the building.
Is in the mass.
And like the same concept though is a short, hot fire. Like for a mass heater, you would light a fire maybe a couple times a day, really hot and really efficient, and it heats up the thermal mass, and then it goes out, but the thermal mass keeps on heating.
It keeps on the warm for you.
Yeah, so you really only need to do that a couple times a day, like maybe 2-3 times a day. And minimal amount of wood, like you can use 1/10 of the wood that you would in a traditional wood stove.
Wow, that's worth knowing about. Thanks for the quickie tour of rocket stoves.
No problem.
And it's exciting to see something can be done so easily, and cheaply. I am with Kelt Shira with this strange contraption. What is this? Talk to me. Talk to me.
This is a Clipper 2B seed cleaner.
Wait a minute. That sounds like an airplane.
It does.
A Clipper 2B. All right.
2B. Now, this seed cleaner is 90 years old. Brian Kirkfleet from Inspiration Farm.
Hey, Brian. Thank you.
And I have been rebuilding this thing, just a week's work stuffed into 2 years.
All right. Okay.
But what it is there are 2 steps of cleaning seed. One is the threshing, where you separate the seed, you smash up all of the stalks and chaff and heads and get it all mushed up. And now you have a whole lot of mushed up biomass with seed in it. Step 2 is you have to get the good seed out of the stuff. So this is a beautiful piece of appropriate technology. I found this thing online in a barn in Ohio and had it shipped here a couple years ago to Brian's farm. And it was a mess.
It was a mess.
It came
in pieces?
It had pieces and rust and dead rats and mud daubers and mouse poo and you name it.
And everything. So Brian, in a remarkable display of mechanical genius, took all of the sheet metal parts and remade all of the sheet metal parts.
Oh, wow.
Used the old wood parts as a template to make new wood parts. The frame is original, the axle's original. The important stuff like the fan itself is original.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's, you can't see it, it's down buried in
We
a
need to
sheet
get a
metal
little tour
housing.
so you can see what that is.
But
Right.
you can look at it later. But these cast pieces and the axle that hold the fan blades, that, you know, that would be hard to fabricate.
Okay. All right.
But we were able to salvage the new one, the old one, and just clean it up and give it a nice coat of Rust-Oleum, and we're good.
All right.
So with that, what happens is there's 2 screens, and you have to match your screen sizes.
2 screens that are horizontal. All right.
2 horizontal screens. You can see the top one. Here it is.
Show one of those ones.
Okay.
And there's one below.
And there's one below.
Like, and this is these kind of things here.
These are these kind of things here. Curiously enough, that's the 1/19. So that's not the right one.
Oh.
This one is a grain screen. And then the top one is another grain screen. And we may actually,
This one, right?
right, and we may actually, this is barley? No, this is still wheat. Okay, there's the wheat. Now wheat is buried, you can see. This has been threshed.
Oh, yeah.
Brian got a chipper shredder off Craigslist, a great big thing about the size of this clipper, and slowed down the gearing so that it didn't pulverize it pulverized the grain.
A chipper shredder got from whatever you harvested to here.
Well, you
Slowed
know,
down.
Yeah, what
Right.
we did was we took, well, the way I harvested it was with a hand saw. Japanese, it's actually a Japanese race sickle. And you just cut it like this and bale it up. And now you've got one like this. Wonderfully appropriate technology tool.
Yeah.
And then I brought it over to Brian's and we put all of it, the dry material, heads and all, stems and all, through the chipper shredder. And that gave me a bucket. This is a North Dakota hard spring wheat.
Okay.
That I'm trying to get used to living in Whatcom County. And because one of the tricks that we have around here is getting a good bread weight. Now, you know, Dr. Jones of the Extension Service down in Mount Vernon, he's done an awful lot of work. But this was one that I did. So having got that, now you can see what we did for a long time was to use hand screens and box fans and tarps and all kinds of jerry-rig operations to try to get the grain out. And I'm just here to tell you that this resembles work. So it was the motivating force for getting the clipper rebuilt was the idea of having to go through buckets and buckets of this stuff with a hand screen and a box fan again this year. So, with that said, we're going to see the clipper in operation.
Alrighty.
All right, and now here's our motive force.
Motive force is a young peddler, a bike peddler, right?
Right. This is.
So you've hooked up a bike. Now wait a minute. Was that part of the original?
No.
To have a bike.
Originally, it had a fractional horsepower electric motor, and that too was trashed along with everything else.
Okay. Okay.
When it was originally built, it was built to operate on a hand crank. And so what Brian did was to adapt the shaft for the hand crank to the bicycle.
Nice. Clever.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean.
I'm just here to tell you, when we get done with this public demonstration, we're taking this back to Brian's shop and we're putting a washing machine motor on it. Just so everybody knows.
Because you don't have young people that are going to be doing this the whole time.
We might have young people. The trick is you have to have a steady speed. And so if you vary your speed too much, you can end up with a different result.
Got it. Okay, so that's.
So do you hear that power source? Nice and steady, even speed.
And I'll probably tell you. Okay.
So this is the shaking tray.
Right.
There's several parts of this operation. There's the shaking tray with the screens, and then there's the fan that blows
at the bottom.
The seed falls past the fan. So those are the two most critical parts of the operation.
And
so you can go a little faster.
Okay. Well, I haven't opened the valve
now
yet.
Now she'll open the valve, and the seed will start falling down on the shaking trays, which is the combination of the two screens.
Okay.
You can go a little faster. One more. One more.
Woo!
So there's the seeds coming down here. The grain is at the bottom.
So we were hoping actually on this amazing event to have some old timers stop by and say, hey, I've used one of those things before. Let me show you how it works. And
They haven't come by yet?
I've met 2 people that have one of these. One person has used one before. And then another person has been around them being used.
Okay.
So we have made some connections.
This is good.
Yes.
Good, because you might need that resource for experience in tuning.
Exactly. And
Great.
so this is what the Skillshare Faire is about. It's like, here we got this thing. Do you know anything about it? We kind of are trying to know about it.
That's a different angle on sharing.
Exactly.
It's like attracting the people that have knowledge from the past.
Exactly. We've had people walk up and like, I remember those when I was a kid. And then they have some little juicy tidbit of information that will help us along on our path as well.
Great.
And then we're sharing it with people that have never seen it. And they're going, wow, I didn't know those existed. So it works in a myriad of ways.
Yeah, great. I'm with Chris Chisholm, who is the founder and I'm sure the director of the Wolf College. What is that?
Well, the Wolf College is a Earth Skills Training Institute.
Okay.
So we do all phases of outdoor education. We do conservation, we do wilderness survival, sustainability, self-sufficiency, ethnobotany, which is wild edible medicinal plants, utilitarian uses of plants, and my specialty is wildlife tracking.
Ah, so is this for young people and adults?
Oh yes, so we have a lot of youth programs, but homeschoolers during the day, evening classes for adults, weekend workshops, and then week-long expeditions and camps in the summer. Almost everything we teach, really, somebody can do in their backyard.
Really?
So really learning every plant in your yard and realizing all the gifts, the medicine, the wild food value, the utilitarian uses, crafts that you can make from all the plants or trees right around you, those sorts of things.
Okay.
So a lot of self-sufficiency.
So would you show us a little bit of that? And we're going to start with
Sure,
how
yeah,
do you make
it's
fire?
A lot of fun doing fire. So first thing we want to do is make sure we get this fire up off the ground, because the ground is cold and wet, and the lower each drop of temperature goes, or the more moisture there is, the much more difficult it is to start any fire, even if you're using a match or a lighter or anything else.
So this is just a buffer?
Yeah, anything you could put a bunch of bark here or just build it up off the ground. You need to get some airspace between the ground and your fire, because air is what's going to hold heat. So this is just a part of a heartwood piece of western red cedar, and I started a little bit of a hole here and cut in 1/8 of a pine notch, and then I have a also same thing, western red cedar spindle that's going to spin around in here, and then I'm going to use anything for a handhold. You can use a rock and chip that out, or you can use a piece of wood, and that's going to go on the top of here. And so I'm going to carve this up really quickly, so that what you want to do is get this to a point, both sides of your spindle to a point. And so I'm going to make this a nice cylinder and get this nice and round. And then I'm going to put a point on this end as well. And stick it right in there. Wrap it in really tightly. I'm going to do it twice because I need to see where this spindle and this bottom board are going to match. And then do another little bit of carving.
Already, I see.
So what's happening here is that we're developing some dust down here in this notch. And so this notch needs to be cut right into the center of
I see
that
that
spot,
it's not quite deep
so
enough.
that it can gather out together all of this dust in one place. So I'm going to carve this in here. And again, any piece of wood or rock that you chip out would work for your handhold, as long as it doesn't burn through on you or break.
Okay, so I see the smoke.
You want really, really dark black dust to develop. That looks like a coal to me. Okay, now I can see red starting to build. Protect it from the wind a little. Now it should be self-sustaining.
In that little pile of dust?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the meantime, you can slowly, as long as it's not too breezy, start working on your tinder. And what I'm using here is Western red cedar bark, which is really nice. Gets nice and fluffy. What you want is a lot of surface area, really super fluffy tinder. There's a lot of materials that'll work. Cotton balls are great. If you want to just practice with those, see if we can get this coal to burst into a flame. So what I'm going to do is take my knife and carefully take this coal and put it into my tinder, and also use all of the dust that you have to keep it going as long as possible. Again, you want a big, huge nest, but we're going to see if we can get it going in this little one here.
Sparks. Hey!
There's the flame.
Yay!
And the best method to really continue with this is called, I call it the bed pillow blanket fire. And so you would have a pillow here and then a bunch of really small twigs that are very flammable laying across the top here, and it would catch that small material and blow it up into flame, and then you crisscross sticks on top of it so that it has a lot of airflow and a lot of material to burn.
Thank you.
Made me work for that one.
I did, we did. Thanks for doing that.
You're very welcome.